Hi guys, Tom Molieri here with AirMaster Heating and Cooling Specialist. Today we're going to provide some relevant information for your Mitsubishi home comfort systems. In this case we have a MSZ-GS indoor remote. As we're going over the different functions on this remote, I wanted to take a minute to explain what we found as the most common settings and how people use this remote for the comfort in their home. Most of our customers, as opposed to turning these units on and off, like they may have been used to with a conventional system, will leave the indoor units on, set the parameters for the temperatures, either higher or lower than the set point when they don't actually want to have a demand on the outside unit or the unit running, and then when they enter back to the room or come back to their home, then turn those units up or down. One other thing to keep in mind here is that if you're going to go away for long periods of time, 2 to 3 days, it may be beneficial to turn the units off depending on what the temperature is outside. Although, if you're in peak of season for summer or winter, we would suggest leaving those units set to a very modest indoor temperature and on so that you prevent your house from swinging to a very high or low temperature and upon your arrival back to your premises, needing to put the Mitsubishi unit under a very heavy load and demand. So, for example, if it is the middle of the summer, July weekend, and you're going to go away, as opposed to shutting this whole system down and allowing the temperature in your house to rise to a very high amount, a very high temperature, we would suggest setting these units all to 78, 80 degrees, and it will run very minimally. And when you come home and then want to lower that temperature to, let's say, 70, it will be a much quicker process and less burden and energy consumption from the units than if they were otherwise off. So, little tip there that we recommend to our customers that we found works well for them with these units in their home. Now that we've talked about your system and how to best operate it, let's talk about some of the features on this handheld remote. This remote will pertain if you have a wall mount MSZ-GS model number unit. 09, 012, 15, 18 are the most common sizes. All right, so this is the Mitsubishi handheld remote that will come with your indoor unit. First, we'll show you how to replace the batteries if and when the batteries die in your remote. You remove the lower section by wiggling or pulling firmly. That comes off 2 AAA batteries. All right, so the batteries are in. You're going to have a flashing display here. First thing you'll want to do is set the clock. You can use a ballpoint pen, press down the clock. You use the up-down arrow that's labeled as time, and that will change at first the timer, and you want to set that for time of day.
Okay, now once the time is set, go ahead and hit the clock again, okay, and you're ready to go.
All right, next we would set the day.
So in the set mode with the clock blinking, you would then go ahead and select the day.
Okay, and when finished, press clock again. That will lock in your stored setting. All right, now the remote's set up, you have the date and the time, and we can begin going through the buttons. We'll start at the top right and work our way down. That's with the on-off button being first. We would press that button. It will activate the remote. If you have a single zone system, there will be 1 indoor unit, 1 remote. Those 2 work together. If you have a multi-zone system, you will have a remote for each indoor unit unless you opted for some other accessory controller. The indoor remotes will work with any of the indoor units once it's pointed to and establishes a communication by pressing any one button and confirming an audible beep at that indoor unit. So in theory, you can utilize any of the remotes on any of the indoor units. Maybe best just to keep them with 1 unit so that the commands don't get mixed up. But just want to point out that this can be used in a multi-zone configuration with other indoor units than the one you've started using it with. So now that we're on, we can go over to temperature, and we would use the up and down arrow to go down. Our lowest set point on this remote is at 61 degrees. And if we're going up, our highest set point is 88 degrees. Mode is currently in auto. So then we'll go over to the mode button. Right now it's set in auto.
In single zone applications, it's fine to use the auto mode. Typically, the unit will modulate. If you set it at 72 degrees, when it hits 75, it will cool down to 72. When it hits 70 degrees, it will heat back up to 72. So there's about a 5-degree temperature swing in the auto mode for single zone. We don't recommend using auto mode in multi-zone because the multi-zone outdoor unit can only heat or cool. It can't do both. And what ends up happening, if you set heads in auto mode, one head may call for cooling, one head may call for heating, and it could create a configuration issue, and the system will not function.
All right, so that is our mode button with auto. We'll then hit mode. The next will take you to cool. Next is dry. And lastly is heat. And then it will go back to auto. So cool is cool. Heat is heat.
Dry mode for a Mitsubishi unit will put the indoor unit in low fan mode and the outdoor unit in low compressor mode. We will be looking for a certain temperature over the heat exchanger in the unit, and we will try to dry the space out using that low temperature on the heat exchanger and the low fan. With our new GS systems, we have a feature called Smart Dry Mode, where it will not overcool the space more than 2.5 degrees in 100 minutes of runtime. This is by no means a dehumidification feature. It is just a dry mode.
Alrighty, and that said, some of our customers may have an older style remote with the dry mode, which will behave slightly differently and disregard your indoor temperature and continue to run that until the space may get much cooler than desired. So just keep that in mind if you have a remote that looks different than this and it was installed somewhere 3+ years ago. So moving on, after we've covered all the modes, we have our fan.
So in heat mode, the first thing that we're going to show you is how to adjust the fan speed. Currently, you can see the icon right here looks like a fan moving. This is the icon for auto, which means the unit will modulate up and down based on whatever it needs in order to get the space temperature to where you desire. Now, if you go ahead and you hit the fan button right here one time, it'll go into quiet mode. Quiet mode is a low fan operation mode. Next, you'll see the icon for low, then medium low, medium high, and then high, and then back to the auto mode. We recommend leaving the unit in auto mode so that it can modulate by itself. If you would like to continue to run the fan in a higher mode once temperature is set, then you can go ahead and select either low, medium high, or high.
So our next button is wide vane. The wide vane button is what you would select for horizontal airflow direction. Each press changes the airflow direction in the following order, and this is found on page number 7 of the indoor unit operations manual. So as you press this button for wide vane, the picture here will indicate where those louvers are positioned. So you'll move from left to right as you hit the button until you reach this final icon, which is an oscillate, meaning it will move completely from left to right. Anything other than that is a fixed position. And then again, that will be your oscillate. If you would like to leave the louvers that are in the rear or the back in a fixed front position, then that is the icon that you would choose, where you have the 2 hash marks that are centered on the display. That would be the most common position. So with the other set of vanes, we're going to skip Econo Cool and come back. The other set of vanes here are going to be the front vanes or louvers, the ones you see most visibly in the front that will open and close when the unit's powered and powered off. They have 5 set positions that move from top to bottom or on the icon on the remote screen, left to right. You can put it in any one of those 5 fixed positions, or at the end, it'll indicate all of the positions with an arrow, and it will oscillate from top to bottom. There also is an auto vane button for this function with the little auto indicator, and when set there, the unit will decide what the most efficient airflow direction is and have the vane act accordingly. Our most common preference for customers in this position is either a fixed position or the oscillate position from top to bottom. So in the wide vane button, this is your horizontal airflow direction, and these are with sets of louvers that are in the back of the opening of the unit, a little more difficult to see. This vane button is for your vertical deflection, top to bottom, and this is done by the 2 front louvers that are most visible, part of the outdoor casement that open and close when the unit is powered on and powered off. All right, so let's cover Econo Cool. What is Econo Cool?
Econo Cool swings the airflow to help you feel cooler than a stationary airflow. So it'll move the air left or right, up and down, around, so that you can feel cooler at a warmer temperature.
So Econo Cool icon will appear here when it's on, and off when it's turned off from up at that location. All right, so in Econo Cool, the remote and unit will communicate to take over the vane function. So if you currently have your vane set to a particular setting or an oscillate like this, you will now notice as I hit Econo Cool, the icon will then appear here where it currently is not, and simultaneously it has removed our setting and put us on the auto setting at the vane so that it can control its operation. Econo Cool will only work in cool settings. This does not pertain to heat or any other setting. And our final button, other than our setting of timers and programming for weekly timers, is Smart Set. So it's a simplified setbacks function to enable a preferred recall or preset setting with the single push of a button. Press the button again, and you can go back to the previous setting in an instant. You can use Smart Set during cool or heat mode to select the Smart Set mode. Set the temperature, fan speed, and airflow direction that you would like, and then simply press Smart Set. 2 settings can be saved, one for cool, one for heat. This would be like a recall button on a TV remote. So there's more description in the manual on page 8 if you're interested in this. This is not a commonly used feature from most of our typical customers.
All right, so right now we're going to briefly talk about the weekly timer operation. It is not a widely used function, but I'm going to go through quickly how to set it. So you would go ahead now with your remote on in the cooling function, set to whichever temperature you want. You would hit the set button. All right, this is going to bring up your weekly timer. In the on position, you can scroll through the days, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. After checking the day, you're going to go ahead and then up the time or lower the time depending on what you would want it. Now, the next function is when you would like it to turn off. So you would click the off button. You would need to set this to when you would like it to shut off. Let's say you go to bed at 9 o'clock. And then once we're done setting this, for all of the days and all of the times, we'll go ahead and click set, and you'll see it sends a communication to the indoor unit, and your timer is set. Your weekly timer will override whatever setting you have. So if you do use the weekly timer, make sure you set it correctly. Because if you don't, you may come home and your house might be 75, 80 degrees when you want it to be 72. Again, we recommend just setting the temperature at wherever you would like it and leave it go.
All right, guys, I want to thank you for watching this video. I want to encourage you that if you have any questions about the remote on any Mitsubishi unit, sequence of operation, how the unit should work, please drop it in the comments below, and we will definitely create a video and get your question answered. Also, if you found this helpful, please subscribe and like the video, hit the thumbs up below, and stay tuned for more content coming. Dodge a disaster, call AirMaster.